Welcome back to the second part of today's show. It's a great pleasure to introduce. Is that on?
Oh, yes.
David Liddell, cinematographer of Paris Sexy, which won the festival in 2011, who is going to show this film and some of your other work. And again, there'll be a chance for a few questions at the end. So I think.
Hello, I'm going to take a wee seat. Yeah, so this is the first film that I worked with Ruth Paxton, who's the writer-director of Paris Sexy, and I shot it in my last year being at the National Film and Television School, and it was through a short filmmaking team in Scotland called Digicult. I don't know who the original cinematographer was supposed to be, I never found out, but he, or she, who knows, they bailed for some commercial work about a week before the film was about to shoot, and Rosie, who was producing it, who was a friend of mine from a few years ago, just gave me a phone and asked me if I was free to do this film with Ruth. And I'd seen a lot of her stuff before at the Edinburgh Festival, and I really liked her stuff, and thought that's the sort of thing I'd really love to do. And so we met up and we had about a day to sort of shot list and work out things. I drove us to like a couple of locations that day as well, and we saw them, and then it was a weekend off, and then we started shooting. So it was quite sort of plunged into the deep end sort of thing. First kind of short film I'd done through a scheme that was sort of, I mean, it's I think it was about 15 grand the short cost to make, and it was the first thing I'd been in charge of where I had quite a large crew and quite a lot of people involved. You know, continuity and art director and props and set designer, and you know, full camera crew for me. So that was quite scary and daunting, and it was the sort of start of my sort of professional career. So it's quite interesting to sort of chat about that. And it was only a couple of years ago. But I'm showing an extract. I'm showing the last kind of third of it because it's a 25-minute film. So if I showed the whole thing, that's probably the only thing you'd see. But it kind of lead up to, it's sort of a kind of gothic fairy tale sort of thing, set in Scotland, up in the Highlands, and it's about a girl called Greer, and she lives with her father alone in this old isolated cottage, who has an illness. We're not really sure. I think he's kind of schizophrenic, but it's never quite said what's going on with him. But she runs into this guy and girl who have come from, well, the girl's from Paris and the guy used to live there and has come back, and she finds that very sexy, hence Paris Sexy. But you know, she finds them quite attractive and is sort of lured by that the kind of excitement. You know, she has all these Vogue magazines in her room and all these things. So this girl is very glamorous, the sort of girl she would want to be, and the guy she has the sort of guy she'd want to have, and so she's kind of fulfilling her fantasy, and they've been out drinking together, and the pub's closed, and they've been kicked out of places, and she offers to take them back to her house, where her slightly mad father is in the other room, and also he used to be a gameskeeper, so he has a fascination with birds, which kind of plays into this a little bit as well. So enough of this blabbering. I'll just run quick. Yeah, so that was a really fun film to work on, and Gregor, the writer director, is just a crazy fun guy, and I mean the shoot was really so much fun. Everyone was laughing. What we do at the start of the day is we maybe have an hour and a half to 2 hours of rehearsing a sort of scene. The scenes of that sort of length just with the actors, and I just sit in the corner and watch and think about where to put the camera and how to light it. And then after he got the rhythm of the comedy and how he wanted to do it, and a lot of those lines came up on set. A lot of the stuff's I guess about 30% of the lines were sort of made on set, and he wasn't afraid to get rid of stuff that was in his script at all as well. It wasn't working, if it didn't feel right. There was lots of little changes of words here and there, which I found really interesting sort of to watch that. You know, what word is funny, but what word suits the character was kind of stuff that was a constant sort of conversation, and which was important at that moment. So after about a couple of hours of rehearsing, then we bring in all the crew, and they'd stand at the back of the room, and we'd show a full rehearsal of the whole scene that we were doing, and then I would walk around and just tell everyone where the camera was going to be placed and what we were going to do first, if it was going to be a wide shot, and then move into these different close-ups. So then everybody knew what the rest of the day was going to be, and it was the first time I'd sort of worked properly like this. It felt a lot more flexible. In the past, you know, you worked with shot lists beforehand, and you kind of shot things in bits, and this was really nice because you could watch the whole thing and it worked really well almost like as a piece of theatre. It was really interesting. You could just watch it from one position and it was all working, and then only after that did you think about where you wanted to put the camera. So you know, we've done the shot list before because we always like to have belt and braces, but the idea was to come up with the stuff after how the actors had blocked it, and I think that's the way I've sort of worked or tried to work since then with whoever I work with. I think it's you know, because you know, you do a shot list beforehand, but it's already theoretical most of the time. I'm sure you know, until you find that location, until you know how big or how small that room is, or who you've got doing the performances, or how big or small their performances are. You actually know what shot you want, you know, what size of lens you want, where you want to place the camera, because you might think it's going to be a big wide-angle shot, but then the performance is so huge and over the top that in fact it maybe looks too silly and takes away. So maybe you go back on a long lens and treat it more sort of documentary style, just to sort of counterbalance some of the performances, depending on, you know, your taste and how you're trying to make it. And the scene in the teacher's lounge was where we wanted kind of a wider lens on him, sort of looking down at him, and we kind of used the walls to accentuate that. And then it's all sort of tighter lenses, 50mm or 85s, on all the teachers and their looks. And the eye lines are kind of slightly off, and it should be a little bit uncomfortable, and should play with the sort of the awkwardness of the scene, hopefully. And then there's a bit in that other scene where he's being punched by the kid. All that stuff that the kid did. There's an earlier bit where he runs in and screams at the class, and then there's a bit that kid does where he's shagging the desk, and all that stuff. We kind of tried to play. We would try and do that without letting all the kids, because they were from a local school. We tried to let them not know what was going to happen. So any new thing, those reactions you see in the wide and some of the close-ups in an earlier bit, they were done the first time. There was no rehearsal for that, so we got genuine reactions from them. So they were giggling or laughing, or they felt kind of awkward, and some of them leaped back and jumped out of the room. And so that's quite fun to play with if you've got non-actors there, just to roll and not shoot the rehearsal, shoot the rehearsal. Don't actually show them what's going to happen, because you can get quite funny reactions from that. And then there's a bit where it kind of intercuts with lightsaber, and that was something that we shot earlier. At the beginning of the film, he's playing with his lightsaber in his room, where he lives with his mum. And I think that's a really good edit in there that the editor's done. And I think it's because this is him. He's treating his whole life as sort of playing with little action figures, and it's almost like his action figure is fighting back now, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's sort of panicked. So he's taken out this knife, which was an old World War knife that his father left him, apparently. So that's where that ends. Yeah, the next thing I'm going to show you is Baroque, which is another film we did with Ruth Paxton, who did Parasexy, and we made this for a festival called the Festival de Letters, and they gave us 500 quid to make it. So we kind of split it down. We kind of split it down the middle. I shot this on my 6DD with the two lenses I had at the time, a 35 and a 50 sort of EF lens, and I hired a few lights for the day that I hadn't used before and thought it would be nice to try out. And then the other half of the money went on the sort of costumes and makeup and stuff. We pulled a lot of favours from friends and stuff. And this is the end of it. And at the start of this, I put a minute of stills visual references that Ruth sends me, because she just sends me hundreds of pictures for any project we're doing, and they're all under labels of themes. So they're either about a character, it's like these are the sort of shots I want you to think about with this character, or they're about a specific theme in the film. And all the images she sends me, they're not necessarily shots we want to do, but they're more like, I like the pink colour in this shot, or I like, you know, just the depth of field in this, or I like the way this flows, and so it's all kind of piecemeal things, but I thought I'd just show a bunch of those at the start, so you can see what we were looking at as our references, and then see what we did for the actual film. Don't know if that's interesting, but I thought I'd do that. Yeah, so on the images you saw before, there was sort of names of girls, and that was where those specific images were to each of the characters. We shot it in this crypt in this church in Maida Vale, which we got for the day for I think about £100. They rented out the basement for us, which was a really good deal. And basically bits with Ty shooting that wall, and then the other girl this wall, and the other girl this wall. So that was about the space really. And Ruth, for this project, she made what's been dubbed a scriptment, which is somewhere between the treatment and the script, whereby each of the characters has sort of just a list of activities that we're going to try that day. So basically the day's broken into, that one day shoot is broken into a third for each character, and we have a list of things that we want to try out with the characters and see what works. And we just kind of freeform shoot and try stuff out. And throughout that there was not that music, but kind of operatic baroque music playing throughout those scenes, so that the actresses were kind of performing to the rhythm that we were eventually going to be having as the music underneath. Yeah, and it obviously takes inspiration from baroque paintings and just art generally of that time. And it's a kind of it's just a nice little study on beauty and aesthetics and mortality really. And it was a good excuse for me to try out my sort of attempts at Caravaggio, basically. But you know, that was something that we made for about £500 and shot in a day and edited in a day, and felt really chuffed that we could make something like that. And I think with Paris Sexy, it went through a huge amount of script development with the short film scheme. At that time, it felt like when things went wrong on that shoot, for example, not having quite the right location for certain things, and we wanted to try and change stuff, I don't think we had the confidence really at that point to just change it, to go, okay, well, we've only got an hour to shoot this scene, so let's make it what it can be in that hour. Rather, we just struggled to put together what was on the script. So, whereas working this way, it's been really nice, and we've done a few things together. And sometimes it's just me and Ruth out shooting landscapes or broken houses. But the great thing about it has been the sort of freedom of not having that larger crew and not having that pressure of sort of, oh, if I change my mind, everybody's kind of looking at me, and they'll probably think I don't know what I'm doing. Whereas with this, I've suggested to her, if we do ever do like another, traditionally dramatic short, that we should put a day that's a baroque day aside, whereby we're just grabbing stuff that's interesting. That can be used as space between dialogue scenes and that sort of thing, because you get so much interesting material, I think, when you can just when you've got ideas and you've got a little script and you've got a set of activities and things you want the actors to try, and you just go out and do it, and you're not worried about oh, I didn't quite say that line right, or all those other things of sort of continuity of not that it bugs me, but sometimes I have wasted time arguing about whether we're crossing the line, which we're not, because I know when we're crossing the line. But oh, that cup needs to be here and that needs to be like this, and you're sort of like, this is so low budget, we don't have, I appreciate the effort and the craft involved, but sometimes you just don't have time to sort of tweak all those little things, and then you're not actually getting what you need in the can for the edit afterwards. So it's nice to take that pressure off, because this stuff, because I edited this as well, and you know, we just have these little three parallel stories, and we can cut to each one whenever we want to, and there's a real freedom to that. You literally are just building the story block by block then, with the image next to each other, which is a really fun and free way to work. The next thing I want to show you is by a guy called Henry Coombs, which is the last part of his film I'm the Architect, and it's a sort of black and white, kind of inspired by Art Deco, modernist art and architecture, and a bit of German expressionism, and that sort of, kind of in that vein, that sort of area. And it's about an architect who kind of gets sucked into his own model and is sort of harassed by this crazy woman who's called Modernist Marcella, who runs the model, and sort of taken prisoner. And it's basically about the architect's own model kind of taking over this architect. And Henry's dad's an architect, and Henry's always been fascinated with the large egos that architects have, and he wanted to sort of crush them with, and he's an artist, so it's kind of, it's basically a kind of battle between him and his dad, I think, but I haven't ever said that to him, because it's a battle between art and architecture, and obviously art wins, so. Once again, I'm showing a few storyboards as well. So these just play for about a minute, but these are storyboards Henry's done. We call them storyboards, but they're not actually shots from the film. They're just, we had about 200 all on one wall when we were prepping, and I just thought they were really cool. They're really cool pieces of art anyway, and they had a big influence on how we decided to make the film. The kind of collage feel of it, the cut and paste, and the sort of just the texturalness of sort of, you know, these are photocopies, really high contrast black and white photocopies on a photocopy, and then so that kind of gave us an idea of how we wanted to treat the actual film material later on as well, but may or may not make sense after you've seen it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being so generous also with talking about your for being so generous to talk about your processes, which was really interesting to find out about, because we're really short of time. I'm going to send it straight out to the floor for any questions.
How did you get any Marsden involved in the first?
How did I get what?
Was it Eddie Marsden?
There's Martin Compston was in Paris Sexy.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So I don't know how they got involved. I mean, I sort of I didn't get them involved, but I'm sure Rosie, the producer, sort of just sent them the script and they got involved. I've done some short films, other short films with him, and for the companies with his agents. I know his agents quite well, but I wasn't actually involved in that at all. So I guess he just liked the script. I don't know.
I have a question. Are you involved in choosing locations? Have you worked with what you're given?
It's a bit of both really. So, for example, we had Stowe College for the Rule of Thumb film, just in the school, and we knew we had to shoot there because we wanted all the locations to be in sort of one space for that. But there was a few choices of staff room and a few choices of classrooms, and we picked them based on what we thought was best for the story. Mm-hmm. And the same with Nevada. In fact, the location thing is really interesting because this project with Lau, we did the music for Nevada. We'd worked with them on something else, so I'll try and tell it really quickly. But basically, Ruth made this little thing called Blood as Sticker, which is basically, we found this old house that we really thought was cool, and we shot lots of what we thought really cool shots in it, and had a few characters in it, a few actors that we knew doing stuff in it, and this little voiceover narrative to it. Then after that, Ruth, who's friends with Lau, they were looking to do some sort of visual audio collaboration. So what we did was we put all the shots that we'd done for that project, and we kind of put them into themes. So there was a sea theme There was some stuff we'd done in the forest theme. There was the abandoned house theme. There was a young girl theme and an older lady theme. And we put all those images, roughly 2 minutes for each set of themed images, and we put them on a loop, and we had them projected in a rehearsal space, and now watch the loops, and basically as we pressed play on the first loop, they started playing and responding to the images immediately. So, you know, to put it kind of simply, you know, if they saw a door open, maybe Aidan would sort of do something creaky with the violin, but it was kind of, it was really interesting to see how they responded to it immediately. And then we played all that stuff again after they knew what was coming, and the stuff they responded to first was really much more interesting.
Had you recorded that?
Yeah, no, we recorded everything. I mean, that was the intention, was
Yeah,
to sort of show them it. And it's like, you're gonna have to just watch this and be intuitive, and just make music while seeing this, while seeing a cut unfold, basically. So we've kind of had that in the background. We've not really shown anyone that, but then they gave us the opportunity to do this because they wanted something for the new album. So that's one of them. There's 3 other tracks from the new album in the cut. So yeah, the ideas for that stuff, definitely that film, and definitely the film we did where they were improvising, it all came from location. So we find a space that we really liked, and we decided what's the story we're going to tell in it, which is a really cool way to work. I really enjoy that.
We're a bit over, so we're just going to go into our last
Sorry.
5-minute break. But you'll be around maybe during the break if anyone's got any other questions.
Yeah, sure. Anyone? Yeah.
All right, so back here, 5 minutes. We'll start on time next time.